Okay, we're just about to go live on YouTube. I want to thank everybody for joining. Give us one more second here and we will be live. Okay, we're just about to go live on YouTube. There we go. Don't want to hear the echo. All righty. So before I'm gonna allow other people to unmute and ask questions, or you can ask questions in the chat in just a minute. But before we do that, I wanted to just go ahead and introduce myself and talk a little bit about what Caucus is and just kind of give the basics. So first of all, I want to thank you all for joining. My name is Chris Knoll. I'm the chair of the Salt Lake County Republican Party. This is exciting. We've got our 2024 caucus that's going to be happening on March 5th. This caucus is a little bit different than the previous one. We are going to be holding a presidential preference poll as well. And so the presidential preference poll is taking place instead of our presidential primary. We'll still hold a primary, but it won't be a presidential primary this time. So this is an important caucus for everybody. If you have an interest in a particular nominee for the president, this is your time to come and to vote for that person. And I'll talk a little bit about who the candidates are. We can talk about that a little bit. I won't give my opinion. I'll try to keep myself neutral in this particular race, but obviously I have an opinion, but I'll just remain neutral at this point. But we can talk about things like, what it is what is the purpose of caucus. And I'll start there. Really, the whole purpose of the party is to promote our values as a party, right? So we start with, and I like to summarize them as faith, family, and freedom. And so the way that we do that as a party is we get together as precincts, as neighborhoods. We get together, we meet at our precinct caucus, and we elect precinct chairs, vice chairs, secretaries, and treasurers. And we also elect delegates, county delegates and state delegates. These delegates are the ones whose responsibility it is to go out and get to know all of the candidates that are attempting to win the nomination of our party. So we, as members of our neighborhood, we want somebody to go in who's going to do a good job, going to talk to every candidate, get a feeling of each candidate that whether or not they really do promote our principles or not. And then that delegate is going to attend the convention, the party's convention, which will be April 13th. Let me make sure I got that right, April 13th. And then they will then vote for the person that they feel promotes our party principles the best. So that's kind of how it works. April 13th is the county convention, and April 20, I've definitely got that name or that date wrong. Hang on, let me double check here. Sorry, I should know this right off the top of my head, but I've been so busy today. So, no, yeah, it is April 13th. Okay, so April 13th is the county convention, and April 27th is the state convention. So this is one of the pages out there where you can learn all about the caucus on March 5th. If you go to our main page, slcogop.com, right on the front, you can click on more about caucus, and you can come in here and you can see there's all kinds of resources. There's videos, all kinds of information about how caucus is run and what we do there. So that's kind of the gist of it, right? Us as a party, we want to promote our principles, and we do this through the nominating system, through the caucus convention system, which is how we nominate our candidates. Then we hold a primary. Now, traditionally, prior to, if you're familiar with SB 54, where people can gather signatures to get on a primary, previous to this, the only way to get to the primary was to be either, it would be that you'd only go to the primary if you had a competitor and neither of you got to the 60% threshold. So if somebody got to the 60%, then there wouldn't be a primary. But now that people can gather signatures and bypass our system, now they can compete against the winners of our convention and at the primary. And so obviously we are very interested in the winners of our party convention. That's the system that we've set up. That's the system that the party has agreed to, and that's the system that you as members of the party, and if you want to be a delegate and things, that's what you're contributing to. Outside of that, that's outside of the control of the party. We don't really deal with that much. So now, obviously, if somebody wins the primary, who gathered signatures and they beat the party convention nominee, that's a whole nother story. We'll then, support them. But however, the party supports the nominee that comes out of convention. So that's kind of the gist of it. Now, obviously, we're very interested in promoting our principles. We're very interested in making sure that our local county first has representatives that promote the principles that are found in our platform. If you're interested to read our platform, it can be found here under organization and then party platform. And I highly recommend reading that. There's also a slightly different version of this platform for the Utah State Party. So our county party is very similar. State party is a little bit shorter, a little more concise, in my opinion. But both of them are very good. That talks about the proper role of government, human services. It goes on and on. So I definitely recommend reading that. The actual versions are here in English, and we also have a Spanish version for Spanish speaking who are more comfortable with that. But this is the platform broken down into the different sections. So please read it, especially before caucus, so that you know what it is we should be looking for in a delegate, who will then go look for a candidate that meets that criteria. So I hope everyone's excited. I want to talk about one more thing before I start opening it up for the actual Ask Me Anything. The first thing I want to talk about is pre-registration. Please go and pre-register. Do it right now if you're on your computer or you're on your phone. If you click on pre-registration, you can come in here. You can either put in your state voter ID or you can put in your information. This would be like your first name, last name, birth date. If you put that information in, what that does is it will send you back a registration in the mail that will give you, it'll have a QR code. It'll tell you which precinct you're in. It'll tell you where you're going to be meeting. That's important. You need to know where you're going to meet at this caucus. So that's all there. You can even click on the button and add it to your calendar. So, go do that. Click on pre-registration. Go do that now. If you're an unaffiliated voter or you haven't registered to vote yet, there's still time for you to go ahead and register to vote. And if that's the case and you pre-register, it'll give you the information on how to do that. So go do that. Make sure that everything's good to go so that you can just show up with your QR code and walk right into your precinct and start participating. One more thing, I am asking, as a chair, I'm asking you to please arrive at 6 o'clock, not 7. That way we can, I think we got Rob on this. Oh, nope, I lost him. Okay, Rob Axon, I thought was on here. Anyway, so if you can get there at 6, that way you can you can talk with your fellow neighborhood, your neighbors, and you can talk about the things that are important to you. And then you can identify who's going to run as delegate, who's going to run as precinct chair, and you'll have a better idea who to vote for, right? Or you can, if you want to run, you can tell them, who you are and why you should vote for them. So from 6 to 7, that is what I consider the caucus, right? Then we do the call to order, where we actually elect the precinct chairs or the precinct officers, the delegates, and then we'll do the wrap up with the presidential preference poll, and we'll count those. You'll be able to see what the result is for your precinct, and those will all be submitted back to the state party, and that will be the result for your county, your precinct. Okay, trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's pretty much it, but don't forget to pre-register. Come to this page and learn all about caucus. And let me go ahead and if you have a question or you'd like to say something or ask a question, please go ahead and raise your hand in the Zoom, and I'll be happy to unmute you. In the meantime, let me see. Rob was going to join us. Rob Axon, who's the state party chair. Let me just. I think he was driving. So let me see if we can remind him. It's hard to drive and be on the phone and do all at the same time. We also have Karma on the phone or on the Zoom. I'm going to unmute Karma as well, or ask Karma to unmute.
Hello.
Hey, Karma. Was there anything else that I should add or any other questions we'll have?
No, let me go through my list too.
Okay, guys, feel free to ask questions. Raise your hand if you've got a question. There's a number of people on, so let's feel free to speak up. So, Karma, have you been you've been a delegate before?
Yes.
All right. Tell me, what's your experience as a delegate previously?
I think it's really fun. I love going to the convention and participating in that. Um, part of the other part of being a delegate is also vetting the candidates. And candidates will reach out in lots of different ways, and they want to get to know you and get your vote. And so they will make themselves available for you to meet them and for you to understand who they are and what their ideas are and what they want to do. And I think that is a really good um, use of our time to do that. You get to make insights into them and kind of where they're coming from, how they're going to be an elected official by sitting down and talking to them and talking the issues and just talking face to face and not just reading a bumper sticker or a mailer. I think it's a process where we can get really good candidates. And then convention is sometimes long, and if you're not prepared for that, you might be you might run out of water or whatever and think it's too long, but it really is. There's a lot of business that happens there. Obviously, the main thing is to elect our nominees, and sometimes those go more than one round. But we also sometimes have the opportunity to take care of some party business, like updating the bylaws or actually the platform. The platform's not the convention, and
Yeah.
so if you read the platform, you'll see, hey, this is what we believe. This is what brings us together. And once in a while, there's some things that need to be tweaked, not rewritten, and not start from but there's ideas that need to be clarified or
Yeah.
made more concise or expanded or you know what I mean. And that's
Yeah,
where we
things
would do
change.
this. And so it's important to spend the time to do that.
Yeah, for sure, I agree. And so I want to go back to the nominating. So, it's no secret. I've lived here in Utah. Well, it's been quite a while now. Gosh, 14 years, 13 years. And so I came from Arizona, and I just want to tell you guys really quick. I moved here it after having tried to participate in Arizona politics. I was very disappointed, very disappointed in Arizona politics. There was really no way um, to be able to participate in a meaningful way. So when I came here to Utah and I saw the caucus system, I was invited by my neighbors to attend. I showed up and they started telling me, yeah, you get to go meet with candidates who are going to run for um, for the different races, and you get to meet with them, you get to interview them. It's like a job interview. And I thought, well, that would be amazing. And so I immediately I wanted to run as a delegate, and my neighbors supported me, and I got to interview all kinds of different people. And so the interesting thing was that I learned a lot about candidates. I came in thinking that there were specific candidates that I would have supported, and came out realizing that I supported a completely different candidate. And I think if people had that opportunity to be a delegate, they would realize there's a lot that you don't know about those individuals. They may have great commercials, they may have great radio ads, they may have great flyers, but when you get to sit in front of somebody face to face, eye to eye, and ask them questions, you learn so much more about them. By the way, Rob Axon just joined. He's our state party chair. Rob, thank you so much. I know you're on the road. I know you're driving, and so when I asked you to be on, you said sure, but just understand I'm driving. So we fully understand, and we appreciate you being on. Would you like to add anything really quick?
Yeah, no, happy to be on, but I'll just echo what I heard. Obviously, I jumped on a little bit late, but the caucus convention system is one that takes a little bit of effort to understand, but once you do it, it definitely opens up the door to civic engagement, and I think it allows for the core elements of what it means to live and to be engaged in a constitutional republic. Like, what is that? Well, the caucus system allows for a meaningful engagement in that process, and it's something I definitely support.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Rob, how long have you been the chair? Why don't you explain that and tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about.
so I have been the chair of the party since last year in April. And prior to that, I've been involved in the Republican Party here in Utah for a number of years. I had previously, a handful of years ago, served as the vice chair of the state party under then chairman Derek Brown. And then separate from party involvement, I've been involved with a number of campaigns through the years as a donor, as a campaign manager, as a volunteer, really anything that has been done on a campaign. Most of those things I've done for somebody at some point, and very much just appreciate that process. Here in Utah, obviously, party leadership and service is exactly that. It's service. This is not a paid gig. And so Chris, as our Salt Lake County chair, not paid. This is above and beyond his professional responsibilities in life and family duties. The same is true on the state level. So even though it's near full-time hours, sometimes some weeks exceeds full-time hours, it's a voluntary basis. And I say that because it's really, again, anybody that wants to step up can very meaningfully contribute to this process. And it really is many hands make light work. Obviously, it's a common saying, and one here in Utah that comes up quite frequently, and I firmly believe that a lot of people leaning in and jumping in substantially improves the process. For me, I'll tell you the biggest motivator that I have as to why I decided to run for party chair and why I'm committed to putting in the time necessary to do it is my 4 kids. So I have 3 boys and a daughter, ranging in ages from 5 to 14. And I firmly believe that we have opportunities now to preserve their future. But if we're not careful, then a lot of the opportunities that have blessed all of us will be a lot harder to obtain, if not impossible. So I would rather put forward the effort now to preserve that than try to rescue it after the fact.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's one of the things that, you know, when I first moved here, I was so impressed by the caucus system and by our ability to directly influence the election of our representatives. But it's all for the purpose of our future, right? And I don't know that I appreciated that as much when I was a father of 5. I certainly did appreciate it. But now that I'm, you know, my kids are starting to get married and starting to move out of the house, and I'm thinking about grandkids, I'm thinking, wow, that's a whole nother generation where they need to have this system where they can then promote the conservative values that makes their families strong and great. And so now it means even more to me, right? And so I completely agree with what you just said. Thank you for that. Hey Rob, what real quick, and I know you with you driving, just tell me if you got to go, whatever. But why don't, this is a question that comes up a lot recently. What is the difference between a county delegate and a state delegate, and why do we have two different types of delegates?
Yeah, great question. So, constitutional republic, which is our system of government, it's a type of democracy, but it's not a pure democracy, right? A pure democracy, everybody gets surveyed and has a vote to determine every decision that a government makes. Well, the spirit of a democracy is certainly alive and well in the United States, but we are not a direct or a pure democracy. We are a constitutional republic. And that means you elect individuals to represent your voice and your interests. And so we have that, of course, on the national level, as a president represents through a representative electoral process the will of the people and represents all of us. So obviously right now, Joe Biden represents all of us as the president of the United States.
Like it or not.
Now, was he my choice? Would he ever be my choice? Absolutely not. But that is the outcome of election. Well, you go on down all the way through, you have senators and congressmen and women and all of these other elements that, again, each one is representing a constituency. And sometimes that constituency is an entire state or a district. But even within a state, so here in Utah, we still have that same process. And so you have some elected office that is up for election this year, where it is a statewide office. So we have 4 examples of that here in Utah. You have governor, attorney general, 4 on the state side, 2 on the federal side. But you have governor, attorney general, treasurer, and auditor. Those are the 4 constitutional statewide offices. You then on the federal side have 2 Senate seats, and those are all elected statewide. So the state delegates look at those individuals. And so they are tasked with vetting and engaging with candidates for those offices. On the county level, you have offices that are within the county. And so these can be your county clerk, your county auditor, your county surveyor, your county mayor, your county council or commission. All of those would be county level races. You then have, and so county delegates vet those, and then those elections go through the county convention rather than the state convention. You then have a handful of seats that are kind of local in representation, but they become state delegate facilitated elections, and I'll explain why. And that is, as an example, you have legislative seats, so state house, state senate, state school board.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
If their district is completely contained within a county, an example of that would be in Salt Lake County, you have a number of state legislative races. If the totality of their boundary is within Salt Lake County, then county delegates and county conventions execute their electoral nominating process. If, however, a district for some of those legislative or state school board seats crosses into more counties, so it crosses county lines, then they would still are vetted by delegates, but it ultimately becomes a state delegate process. And the reason being is, you know, I love Utah County. It's where I grew up. I also love Salt Lake County. It's where I live. I don't want to have Utah County delegates determining for Salt Lake County their position solely. So it needs to go to the state delegates because it crossed those boundaries.
right. So I've seen a lot of people who want to be state delegate only, right? But the truth is, in my opinion, and you tell me what you think, but my opinion is the closer that we to our local government, the more influence we have, right? And so, I personally, over the years, I've become more I don't know, preferred to be a county delegate, to be perfectly honest. So it's but both are very, very important roles, and they're both we need delegates at both levels. Obviously, you being the state chair, you chair the meeting with the state convention with the state delegates, and I would be chairing the county delegate position. But what do you think about what do you? Is there not that one is more important?
I agree.
Yeah.
I think they're both important and both fun. Obviously, here in Utah, state delegates this year are if what's motivating you is being involved in a lot of prominent races, well, this is a very fun year to be a state delegate. You have I mentioned those 4 statewide constitutional offices. You have a Republican challenger in each of those except for one. You have a Senate seat. So obviously that's a lot of fun. But to your point, Chris, the most impact to your daily life and the decision making that affects everything from your neighborhood to your family to your taxes and everything else, those oftentimes are county decisions or local decisions, in which case a county council, or excuse me, a county delegate role gets you far more engaged on that. And I think a good indication of this, some folks have asked, why in Utah are we doing the presidential preference poll facilitated through Caucus this year? Well, I believe that nominating our presidential candidate for the Republican Party is absolutely important and essential. And I'm glad that people want to do that. And we're looking forward to facilitating that through our caucus. But one other thing that sometimes people feel like, oh, I just need to vote in that, and that's all I need to do. The reality is getting them involved in caucus is far more impactful to all of these other decisions that impact their life. And so that same trickle-down effect is true between state and county delegates.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate this. This is one of the things where, we all have the opportunity to participate directly in this system. Whereas, where I came from and many other states, most states actually, you just don't have that direct influence. And then to be, even if you're just voting for a delegate, that's a huge influence. And then one of the things I think we forget about a lot as a party is, what was the result of convention? Who won and why? Right? That's so important. That return and report of that. So that's one of the things as a chair that I've committed that I'm going to make sure everybody is aware of the results of convention. And so, I hope that you're going to do that too. I'm actually, I know you are, but That's going to be one of my biggest focuses this year is ensuring the return and report of what those delegates did and why.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So we haven't had any other questions. So this is the first time doing this. So, you guys got to work with me a little bit. I wasn't sure if we were going to have a lot of questions or we're going to, be silent. It sounds like there's a little more silence than a lot of questions. But if anybody's got a question, please raise your hand. Oh, is it? I don't know if he's attempting to. Let me see. I think somebody's attempting. Oh, okay. So you can unmute if you want to ask a question if you're on Zoom. If you're on YouTube and you want to ask a question, you can type it into the chat. So looks like
I have
Hey.
a question.
Yeah.
This is Michael.
Hi, Michael.
What's the purpose of pre-registration? Why can't you, wait a minute, why can't you just show up at the caucus and participate? What's the purpose of registration? We didn't do that 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm happy to take this one, Rob, or if you want to, you want me to take it?
Yeah, Doug, jump on in there, Chris, and
Okay.
I'll add anything if needs be.
Yeah, no. So the pre-registration. So if you've been involved in past years, people will walk in. You have to go search for the names on the list. There's these paper lists out there, and it takes a lot of time, to be perfectly honest. And so the walking into caucus, a lot of times people will walk in, just 15 minutes before we start, and then you get these lines of large lines of people showing up. And we were trying to avoid that this year, especially here in Salt Lake County, where we have, I think, probably us and some of the other larger counties have this problem the most. The pre-registration, what that does is it takes over that responsibility of verifying that you're actually a Republican. So it's just saying, okay, this person has checked in. Yep, we verified they're a Republican. And if they've got that QR code and they've got the registration that comes back, it'll come back in your email and on the results screen. That will show that yes, you Michael are a Republican, you're registered Republican, you're a registered voter, and you're still going to walk up, you're still going to show your government issued photo ID along with that registration, but that moves you along a little bit faster. Okay, so we don't have to go look you up on a list. So it just helps to get those lines moving faster. It doesn't do anything to we're not doing any background check. All we're doing is just verifying that you're a registered Republican. That's all it is. And it moves things along much, much faster.
Yeah, I'll just add it takes a handful of seconds to check you in on caucus night rather than potentially a minute or two, which adds up dramatically with everybody that's there in person. And hopefully, Michael, if you went through the process, you saw it's pretty straightforward. If you haven't, I would encourage you to do that. And anybody here on the call, you can go to utgop.org, go to that pre-registration button. It takes maybe about a minute, maybe 90 seconds if you're taking your time, or you have fat fingers like I do and you typed in your info wrong. It really is a pretty streamlined process. The other nice thing is under state law, as an example, if somebody is currently registered as a Democrat or any other party, they can't change and participate with us. That's a state law prohibition right now, where changing your party affiliation after January 9th of this year is blacked out until July. Well, we require you to be a registered Republican. So rather than wasting an individual's time who wants to come and participate with us to come down to the caucus and then they find out they're ineligible, they go through this pre-registration process. Like I said, it takes a little over a minute maybe. They'll get an email that says, hey, unfortunately, you're currently registered as a libertarian or as a constitutional party. You're not eligible under state law to change your party affiliation, and therefore you cannot caucus with us. But we would love your support, and we encourage you to change your party affiliation and join with us for future years. So it really is a mechanism that streamlines the efficacy and efficiency of things. And my hope, and all of our hope here, is that it creates a far better experience for more Utahns. And so what I would love is if somebody's showing up to caucus for the first time, I want them to enjoy their experience so that, one, they want to come back, but two, they catch that spark that being involved matters, and that the viability of our future and the vibrancy of our communities depend on all of us leaning in. So that pre-registration process will help facilitate that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you asked
Chris,
that question. One more thing I want to add to that is that the pre-registration process, Rob, it does ask for the email and phone number, right? And so one of the things that you made comment to me is, at the end of the presidential preference poll, we're, at the end of the caucus night, we're going to take the tally of who voted for who, right, in each precinct. And you had mentioned something that I really like, that you're going to release those results to the caucus attendees first, right?
Correct. Yep.
That's awesome.
100%. It's always kind of bothered me that we go and we participate as citizens, and then we're reliant on the news media to tell us what the results are. And while they serve a function and we'll be notifying the news media of the results so that they can get the word out as well, I think if somebody has taken the time to come and participate at caucus, they deserve to know those results first. And so when we have that final tally happen, we will be blasting out an email and or text message telling folks what the results are. So then you will be hearing directly from the party of which you're a member and of which you're a participant. And then you'll see it in the news the next day, but it won't be having to wait to see the news. You'll already hear it because you're a critical part of what we're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Lakeisha just asked a question. Do you prefer candidates pre-register? I think I got that one. Every Republican should pre-register who wants to participate in caucus. Now, I don't think we've mentioned this yet, but the absentee balloting is available. If you pre-register, you're gonna be asked if you're gonna. In fact, I can't really show it right here, but if you pre-register, you're gonna be asked if you're gonna be attending in person or you're gonna be attending absentee. So if you're attending an absentee, what this is going to do is it's going to send you an email with just a ballot that it's just an example ballot that you can use and you can fill out, and you can then have that, the instructions are there on how to make sure that gets turned in properly. But you'll be able to participate absentee that way as well. And so even if you can't be there, again, you're going to be able to vote, you're going to be able to participate in, absentee. And then again, you're going to get the results like Rob just said of the presidential preference poll. Those are all going to be posted by precinct throughout the state on the state party website. And so that's exciting to me. And one other thing that does is when a precinct meets together, you guys are going to do the tally together. The precinct chair can, if you decide to stay to the end, you'll see the exact number, you'll see the exact tally. And then later that night, once everything is up on the website, you can see that exact number will be on the website. So it's kind of like your own validation, right? You don't have to rely on, who's, is that did they really count my vote properly? You'll be there, you'll see it, and then you'll see the vote tally on the website itself. So Lakeisha, I hope I answered your question. Everybody should pre-register. If you don't pre-register and you show up that night, we're going to ask that you go ahead and use the same form and register anyway. So it's just better if you can pre-register.
One other thing that comes in the pre-registration confirmation for those of you who have not done it yet, in your confirmation email that says, yep, you're ready to go, you're pre-registered, it also provides you the location of your caucus.
Yeah.
Down to here it is. There's the address, here's the school or whatever building it is. It tells you exactly where you need to go. So there's a host of information that's specific to you that comes to you after you take that 60 to 90 seconds to fill out that pre-registration.
Looks like we've got another question from MB.
Yeah, sorry. This is Miranda Bowerbank.
Hey, Miranda.
So I would just like to also mention, can you show where they can find the pre-registration on the Salt Lake County website as well?
Yeah, thank you. I always love to show off our website. But I'm showing off both now. So the pre-registration for the Salt Lake County website is right here, but that takes you to the exact same place as the state party website. They both go to the exact same location. So either one will do. But yeah, thanks for letting me show off the Salt Lake County website. Okay, it looks like we got John. Go ahead, John.
Don't even have to guess. So I actually have two different questions. I think I know the answer to the first one, but I thought I'd ask you anyway. I live about maybe a half a mile from Alta High School.
Okay.
Yet my caucus location is Bingham High School.
Interesting. Why don't we?
I just pre-registered, and that's what it told me on the pre-registration site.
Okay. To be honest, I'd have to go look at the maps. I'm not looking at them right now. I don't know if that's, I would assume that's right. If it came up that way, because we've been pretty accurate recently.
Yeah,
I will admit that the first couple days this was up, there was some miscommunication on some of the locations. So we got that fixed. So by the way, if you pre-registered before the, let's say the 18th, there may have been a mistake. And I've tried to get the message out and asking people to re-register. But if you just did it, it should have been right. So let's connect after this. If you want to send me a direct message, it won't be on the Zoom. It won't be on the YouTube of your address. I'll help you take care of that.
okay. The other question is maybe a little bit more broad.
Okay.
I've participated in a number of caucuses. I wouldn't say that I'm the most active caucus attender, but I get the general idea. But I've also done a lot of reading about the pros and cons of the caucus system. And it seems that the caucus system has more cons than pros. My biggest concern, obviously, is that I can vote for a person to head up my caucus, but I don't really have control over what they do or what it takes representative government just one more layer further than I'm a little bit comfortable with.
Well, I have my opinion. Rob, we got you on the phone for a few more minutes. Do you want to take that first, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll jump on in. In any system, there's pros and cons, like you said, John. And I think it depends what aspect you're looking at as it pertains to the pros and cons. So I'll talk about it first from the perspective of this presidential preference poll that we're doing. Well, the pros of doing it through a primary is the ballot comes to your house. There's convenience in that. That certainly is not guaranteed to, but logically, it will likely lead to a higher number of participants. That is certainly a pro to doing a primary rather than the caucus facilitated preference poll. On the other side, however, for the caucus, again, it's all those other aspects. I mentioned before, the presidential election and nomination process is certainly important, but there's so many other aspects of what are going to affect your life in all of these other races. And a huge part of that process happens through the caucus convention system, starting at caucus. So by encouraging and inviting people to participate, it increases participation that affects all of those other elements. I would also say one of the downsides, whether we're talking about the caucus generally or the preference poll at caucus, one of the downsides can be you have a process that's put into place that is a limiting process, and it makes it very difficult to participate. Well, you're going to end up with a very small sample. And that certainly can happen. There have been a couple of states here nationally who did that very thing. They made it very restrictive, and it was kind of, I mean, I don't want to point fingers at anybody, but it felt like they were trying to game the system to one presidential candidate over another. I'm of the opinion that's not appropriate, nor should it be the role of the party to do that. It should be up to the voters, and in the case of a nomination process, it should be up to Republican voters to make that determination. And so I'll point out some of the things that we are doing that goes against that limiting factor and instead makes it as broad as possible. That includes this pre-registration process, all of the time and effort and cost to develop this, to make sure everybody has the correct information and they have an easy access to getting that information. We also, unlike anything that has been done before, the state party has never really deployed resources for advertising aside from maybe 15,000. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you. Go on.
Okay, perfect. So rather than just a handful of yard signs, those are those vinyl signs you'll see at the side of the road. The state party has generally done $10,000, maybe $15,000 worth of those signs in the past, and that was about it, aside from some emails. Well, this year, when you add in about $65,000 worth of radio ads and digital ads and billboards and those yard signs and text messages and emails and this pre-registration system, I think when all is said and done, we're going to be north of $100,000 worth of investment in inviting Utah Republicans to come and participate. And so I believe that we have fully addressed and pushed back on that limiting factor that can happen at a caucus. And instead, we're embracing the best function of it, which is anybody's invited. The final piece that I would point out to the inclusion aspect is this absentee balloting that we're doing. We have not put restrictions on the absentee balloting on what qualifies for a person to be able to do that. That's up to any individual who's a registered Republican. They can decide to participate absentee rather than in person. And we have the very simple steps that they'll need to take to do so. But it could be as simple as, you know, you have a work obligation or a family obligation, or maybe you're home watching the kids and your wife's going to caucus in person. You still want to participate. There could be a host of reasons. We've allowed anybody to participate that way if that is their preferred method. And I guess one last thing that I would point out as to the benefit and the pro to a caucus system. You are exactly right, John, that there's multiple ways that we could go about nominating our candidates. And that is true. We could do it just through a primary election. However, there's nothing in a primary election that allows us to build the structure of the party. So the structure of the Republican Party requires neighbors and communities and neighborhoods to come together and decide, hey, who's our precinct chair? Who's going to focus on this aspect of building the party and that aspect? And so the vitality of the organization of the Republican Party, we can do that through a caucus, and there's no way to do that just through the election side of primary. So that's what led us to lean into this for, decades on end here in Utah, and why we're doing it again this year. I would also point out, of course, as a reminder, there still will be primaries for all of our candidates if there are multiple candidates still in contention after convention, whether they qualified for the primary ballot through convention or through the signature process as allowed by state law. So there will still be primaries, and those ballots will still be sent home to all registered Republicans around the state. That will be in June, by the way.
I want to add just a couple little things. I'll make it short because Rob really touched on most of it. My favorite part about the reason why I think it's so much more important to have a caucus convention system is because the caucus convention system really levels the playing field. Whether you're a good representative shouldn't have anything to do with whether or not you, no offense to anybody who's wealthy, but the size of your bank account, right? I'm not saying people who are wealthy are bad or anything like that. But if you have good ideas and you're a good leader, just because you don't have, lots of money or lots of, maybe a big name shouldn't determine whether or not you should be elected. We are a republic. We represent ourselves as citizens in government, and this is the best way to do that and give everybody the chance to do that, right? And so the caucus convention system gives anybody at any level that ability to be deeply involved, become a candidate, and all they have to do is, instead of convince thousands or hundreds of thousands of people to vote for them, they convince their delegates. And when they talk to those delegates, it's an interview. It's a job interview. They're telling them, hey, this is who I am. This is how I'm going to be. And those delegates, they go out and do research and they find the history. Now, if you're really good at that, great. But let's be honest, most people don't have the time to do that. And so we delegate that role to those delegates, and we tell them, hey, we're expecting you to do that. We're expecting you to do the research and come back to us. And I did that. When I was the first time I was a delegate, I mentioned this in the beginning. I spent about 90 hours researching candidates as a delegate that I wouldn't have done otherwise, and because I felt obligated to my neighbors to make sure I did this. And like I said, I did vote very differently than I had expected to originally, because as a delegate, I just felt the responsibility was heavy on my shoulders. And so, I do feel that it is a better representative system. I think that, if you're not a delegate, you tend to feel like, oh, I'll watch the commercials, I'll watch the debates, I'll do these things. But those things really don't tell you who they are. It's not the same as seeing eye to eye and asking a person directly, why did you do this? Or how do you feel about this? Or how do you determine how to make a decision? So that's my opinion. And, but I appreciate everybody else's opinions on this as well. So, it's just, this is why I appreciate it so much. Thanks for that question, John.
Thank you.
Somebody had named iPhone. has got their hand up. There you go. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, this is Dave Park. I didn't know I was showing up.
Oh, no, you're
I
good.
came on late. I apologize. But you were talking about being registered for the convention. I registered for so many things. How do I know if I registered for that or not?
So if you go to slcogop.com or as
Right,
Rob,
yeah, I know that website well.
yeah, okay, either one or the utgop.org, either site, you can click on pre-registration for caucus. If you know your state voter ID, you can start there. It makes it a little bit easier. But if you don't, then you can just go ahead and put in your name, your birth date, and your address. And that information will bring up your voter registration and confirm that, yes, you are a registered Republican, and yes, you can participate.
Okay, I appreciate that. That does look familiar, so I think I've done them, but I will double check. Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and it doesn't hurt to do it multiple times. That's absolutely fine. Just so people know if they forgot or they don't. It should send you an email, and it also the results page. If you can't find that email, just go do it again. It doesn't hurt anything. That's fine. Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for asking the question. Okay, anybody else have any questions? I see a lot of people. Well, not a lot. I just see a couple people that I recognize. Michael Gabidis is one of our helpers. He's helping run one of the caucuses. So thanks, Michael. And I think let's see. Well, I recognize a few names here. So, all right. Anything else, Rob, that you think we should bring up?
No, I think we handled it very well in answering the questions, but if the key thing I would want folks to know is if there is anything that comes up that you do have a question about, please reach out to us. Let us know. We want to make sure that you have the information that you're looking for. I would add the one thing, Chris, you just mentioned that you could go in and you could pre-register multiple times. Truly, if you're not worried or if you don't remember if you did it or not, jump in there and do it again. It doesn't create multiple registrations. It just updates your registration. So it doesn't matter how many times you're not bogging down the system or things. Now, obviously, it'd be a waste of your time once you know you have the right information. But don't worry that like, oh, is there two of me now out there that could be qualified? And does that create a security issue? No, it doesn't. It's just updating the information for you. So here's an example. Let's say you pre-registered because you were planning on going to caucus, and then heaven forbid you get sick the weekend before and you're just too sick to leave the house. Well, you could jump back in and pre-register again, switch it to absentee, and then you'll have the instructions on how to have your absentee vote submitted. And that's completely fine.
Yep. No, it doesn't. Yeah. Just so you understand, in our system, it just puts a check mark saying you did credential or you did register. It doesn't, like Rob said, it doesn't create multiple records. We made sure of that. So we're being careful not to create a situation that we don't want to have, right, with any kind of fraud or anything. So, all right. I don't know if I forget who that was. iPhone, your hand is still up. I don't know if you still have a question or if you just didn't put it down yet. So, okay. All right. Well, I'll just say one more time, if you, we'd love to have you come to caucus night, March 5th. Run as a precinct chair or run as a delegate, run as any of the precinct officers. There's actually a lot of different things that precinct officers do. One of them is, they're helping us to get the word out. A lot of times, and this is something that we hadn't done a great job of in the past, but we're starting to do now, is when people move into your precinct that had previously been registered Republican, we need to reach out to them. We need to say, hey, I noticed you moved here from, hopefully a good conservative place, and you're coming to a good conservative place, and we want to make sure that you register Republican here. And so we're going to ask precinct officers to reach out to those people as they move in, and that'll be one of the roles, or that is one of the roles, I should say, of the precinct officers, is to make sure that we're making contact with our neighbors and making sure they know how to participate. If you've got another question, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, this is Dave again. So I do have a question. At the caucus, can people apply for or run for multiple positions if they're, say, going to be the vice president of the caucus, or excuse me, of the precinct, can they also be a state and a county delegate, or?
Yeah, they can actually.
Okay.
And so now well, I'm speaking for Salt Lake County specifically. I don't know if there's different bylaws for the other counties, but for Salt Lake County specifically, yeah, a precinct chair, for example, can also be a state delegate and a county delegate. Now, obviously, they don't need to be another precinct officer. That would just be redundant. But they can be a state delegate and a county delegate, one or the other. It doesn't matter. Any mix of the above, right? So, and I encourage that. I kind of feel like precinct chairs do a lot of work, and sometimes they don't get the benefit of being part of being able to go to convention and things. And so it would be nice in the future if we changed our party bylaws to make them automatic delegates. That's just a thought, but that's not my decision, but it might come up in a vote in the future. One more thing that the precinct officers do. I'm sorry, go ahead. Did you have another question, David?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what about the House Legislative Chair? Can he also be a delegate, he or she?
Yeah, they can. And so the House, the legislative district chairs they are not automatic delegates. So yeah, they should probably run as well. It would be good to have them run. Again, in some counties, the precinct chair is automatically a delegate, not Salt Lake County. And the House district chairs are automatically delegates in some counties, but not in Salt Lake County. So the ones that are automatic delegates are Senate district chairs, region chairs, and then of course the party officers like myself.
This is Michael again. I disagree with you in allowing automatic delegates. I think they should be voted by the people. If he's a district or a precinct chair like I have been for 10 years, not anymore, but I did run for state delegate and won, and also in this past election I was a county delegate.
Well,
I don't think the more people that run, I think ought to have the opportunity to run for different categories of elections. The more people you get involved, the broader the spectrum is. And if a precinct chair feels like he ought to have a little bit of the glory after all the work, then he should be elected that way. But I don't think I'll never vote for an automatic delegate.
Okay. And hey, and I respect that opinion. And I'm not, I hear it all the time that it would be nice if the precinct chairs could participate in the convention as well. And I lean towards it because I do see all the work they do. But you know what? Your opinion is just as valid. And in this case, it's not something that I feel so strongly about that I would, promote it heavily. I was just mentioning that. So I appreciate that opinion though. Thank you, Michael. So let's see, what was the other? There was one more thing I wanted to mention. So precinct chairs or precinct officers, actually specifically the chairs, they're also expected to attend the central committee meeting. And that is a quarterly meeting that we hold at the county level. And that's where the bylaws are changed for the party. So like me and Michael were just talking about, if we were to make a change like that or decide not to, that's where it would be made. So those precinct chairs, they meet quarterly, and different bylaws, such as the one we just mentioned, are the ones that we would be voting on. Yeah, Rob, did you have something else to add?
Nope, I wholeheartedly agree with what you said.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's and by the way, other precinct officers can attend for the precinct chair. If the precinct chair is unable to attend, even if you notify us in advance, you contact the party secretary through our online form. Another precinct officer can attend when the precinct chair is unable to. So we have a system for that as well. So that's part of the importance of being a precinct officer. And then the other important thing that a precinct chair does is if a delegate, whether it's county or state, if they move away or they become otherwise unqualified to be a delegate, maybe they left the party or whatever it might be, then it's the precinct chair who gets to decide who replaces that person. So that is a very important role. That precinct chair role is a very, very important role. So choose wisely when you're selecting your precinct chair. Okay, any other questions? Anybody else wanted to ask a question? We're coming up on 5 o'clock. I was intending to cancel or end there. So if you've got any other questions, why don't we bring them up now? And otherwise, I think we'll start wrapping it up. Rob, any last words for us?
No, final thing that I would share is just an invitation to come on out to Caucus and to start that process by going to utgop.org and doing that pre-registration, or going to the Salt Lake County parties link as well and doing the link through there. Both, like Chris said, are fine, but would love to see all of you participate in Caucus either in person or through the absentee participation. And then just encourage your friends and neighbors and family across the state to participate. So if you live in one county, your encouragement to friends and family in other counties is just as valid. So put it out there. The state party on our social media is putting out a lot of different flyers and invitations with that information. Feel free to repost those. If you are on Facebook or Instagram or any of those things, feel free to take any of the content coming from your county parties or the state party and push that out as well. We really do want to invite more people to the process. I'm a big believer that the Republican Party will be absolutely in a stronger position with broader participation across the state from our Republican family and friends and neighbors than without it. And so our state deserves a vibrant Republican Party, and the key to get there is all of you participating. So thank you for caring enough to jumping on this Zoom call and this conversation, and thank you for caring enough to then being that message and that evangelist for us of getting the word out.
And Rob, I gotta thank you for all the effort and work that you put into this. It's hard when you've got a day job, you got family, and I know you're making a ton of money doing this. Just kidding. We all know. Just to be clear, I'm joking. These are not paid positions, although we get accused of that all the time. It's kind of funny. These are 100% volunteer positions, and Rob works so hard, and I just can't thank you enough, Rob, for all that you do and for being willing to be on here with us right now. Thank you again, and I guess we'll wrap it up there.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Take care.